Let's start. Good morning, everyone. It is quite appropriate that this is what we're doing on Merdeka Day, talking about decolonization. I think it's the best topic of the day. Today, we're gonna unpack some of what we heard yesterday from the four speakers, and then landed in our context here in Sabah, in Borneo, in Malaysia, in Southeast Asia, in Nusantara. What is our collective history? What is our collective experience? And then there's the very personal, and then there's the family, there's the tribal, there's the state, there's the region. So all of these things are on the table or in the space. So yesterday, it was very intentional that we chose those four people. Wanted to take you on a journey around the world to unexpected places, to unlikely places that you may not really think about every day. So we started with Winona in the plains of the Americas. So where she is in Minnesota, northern US, on a reservation. And I'm sure most of you know the history, of course, of the US and how Native Americans were put onto reservations. What you heard from her was an empowered Native American voice. For every one of Winona, there are countless disempowered voices, Native American voices. I have spent some time in reservations, not her reservation, other reservations, where the stories of the day is, alcoholism, diabetes, violence, young, deaths in their 40s is common. And Rafiq talked about victimhood. I think there is certainly a psyche there of victimhood for a lot of the people. So Winona is very much an exception. And we wanted to feature her voice to show what agency looks like, what voice looks like, and the responsibility of voice, and the responsibility of standing in your place as she's done and as she's doing. We think about the US as the free world, where everyone has liberty and the potential for opportunities. And the reality is, of course, that is not so. It's not what you see in movies and read in magazines or books or whatever. It is very much, your neighborhood, your color, your tribe, your socioeconomic status. And I guess it's not unlike many places in the world, but Native American America is very different from white America. So then from there, we traveled to Melanesia, or that's what they call that region, in the edge of the Pacific, to Vanuatu. Again, probably you don't think about Vanuatu every day, but it's featuring greatly on the climate scene, as an island group of islands. Is it one island, a few islands? 80 islands, many of which may disappear in a situation of rising sea levels. And, unexpected leadership, strong, clear leadership, from someone who was an artist, anthropologist, activist, and then somehow the calling into politics as a platform for change. And the way that he did it. And as you can see, he had a very clear intention about going onto the platform of politics. I was really struck when visiting there, how, he was using his power to bring in customary leadership, tribal voices into parliament, into the governance of the country. And then there's the whole alternative well-being index that they're pioneering, like Bhutan. So, this very exciting cutting edge leadership coming from, the edge of the world. And then we went to the mountains of Central Asia, to Siberia with Ergen, and she talked a lot about spiritual renewal, the revival of their traditional music and poetry and instruments and rituals. She shared a lot of sadness as well. You can see the grandeur, the majesty of the landscape. It's on a whole different scale. Kinabalu there would be one of the short mountains. Everything around there is just so high. But in the fall of the Soviet Union, the revival of these identities and these peoples. And then we went all the way to the stars with Rafiq, to someone that we wanted, he's a little mystical. He whirs around and dances around in these these places. As I said, you can't really define him or say, he's this or he's that. It's even hard to say he's from that part of Africa, because he isn't really. He's like from all over the world. And he talked about curiosity, innocence, reflection, and how to step out of or lose or release the addiction to victimhood, through curiosity, through innocence even. So that was his message, I'd say. So we intentionally brought together this mix of people to help us kind of, stir up our minds and our hearts, and our language with this very diverse thought. Let's talk about our day. We are going to have a process of sharing in small groups, guided by questions, to kind of provoke your thinking and your sharing, and then coming back to the main room to just harvest any insights, any epiphanies that may come, and share those, and then go back again into your smaller rooms. So this is what we'll be doing throughout the day. And I think it's really important, after listening to all the stories from yesterday, where, yes, we heard hope, but we also heard pain. We heard about, the possibility of the future, but we also heard of the suffering and the grieving of the past and the present. And I think, to be kind to ourselves and to be fair to ourselves, rather than hold that in, let's use this space today to in the spirit of community, in the spirit of solidarity, share what impressions, what reflections, what concerns, or joys you had, and as you take all of that content and mix it up with your own internal experience. So I will share my screen. We had you do a journal exercise last night. I hope most of you did it. Where has or does your life intersect with the history and issues of colonialism and globalization? What are the pieces of our collective story or mosaic that you are in a position to know about from your own autobiography. So in this next 40 minutes, we'll do a little bit of check-in, your reflections from yesterday, and then your journaling from last night. And if you didn't journal, that's okay. Just look at these questions, and then you may want to share some of your thinking. So that's what we'll do in the next 40 minutes. And then from there, we'll go into our various small group work. Okay, so the space is open. Anyone who wants to think about it as offerings to the group. So think about it in that spirit.
So these questions honestly were very uncomfortable for me to answer. I tried to avoid it as much as I could last night, but it's sort of like played in my head anyway. So I found myself still reflecting on it throughout the night and even this morning. And I think it's always been a very complex concept for me, as being descended from both the colonizer and the colonized, in the sense that like my mom just told me this story sometime last year of how my great-grandmother originally was from Mambakut. And I think she was not so sure about the exact age, but I think around 13 to 16, they had kind of like guessed. This British man had come through the kampung through her kampung in Mambakut and had told the dad, I want your daughter, I want to marry your daughter. And she was a kid at that time, right? She spent her days like fishing, playing with her friends, mandi sungai, things like that. So I remember the way my mom described it. She was like, she was having the time of her life. Why would she want to go with this weird white man? And so like the dad told her no. But he had kind of insisted like, if you don't, I'm gonna bring my family back here. You're giving threats and stuff like that. So eventually she went with the men. And I guess, and ever since then, like that part of the family has always grown up in a very more westernized sort of setting, more westernized culture. And I can feel that, like, that sort of detachment, not detachment, but like that sort of like distance that I have to the local culture of Borneo because of that. And I remember, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I remember like a couple of years ago when I was working on this one short documentary at this company that I was working for. At the time we were doing a documentary about like Huminodun and sort of like the folktale and where it came from and the Rinayan and stuff like that. But I got to talk to Professor Kitingan, who is the professor of ethnomusicology, I think, at UMS, and she has like a background in anthropology and stuff. And she told me a lot of different stories, but I remember this one in particular she was telling me about the Iranun tribe and I remembered this yesterday after listening to Urjan, because she had mentioned like the epic poems that they have in their culture. And I remember Professor Kitingan telling me about these epic poems that the Iranun tribe has as well, that takes like a few days to recite, but only a few people know this epic poem now, and it's never been like properly like documented or anything like that, so it could very well be lost in the next few years. Granted, she was telling me this sometime in 2018 but I'm not sure what the situation is like now. But it's something that has always sort of like interested me, and in the sense that we as it is now, so much has already been forgotten, especially like as Sabahans, we're storytellers. We don't usually like to write things down so much, right? Traditionally, we're more of like, we like to talk about things. So much of the Renite and stuff like that as well has been lost in this time. And I don't know, I have very complex feelings about it, because on one hand, it's something that I was very interested in learning about at the time. Like when we were doing that documentary, I had a lot of fun researching it and being able to talk to people who knew more about like our traditional culture. But at the same time, I feel so removed from it because it's so different from sort of like the way that I was brought up and what I was raised with. So those are a lot of the things that I was thinking about yesterday, like reflecting on these questions.
Thank you, Emily.
May I share something? I always regard myself as a person who likes to learn. Maybe what Rafiq said, curiosity. Yeah, if he is around, he will understand my language. There is a Sufi language called fakir. Fakir means you are always in poverty. And it is a word used to show that you are humble, you are ignorant, and you would like to look for light. So in that sense, I find all what was discussed yesterday was very useful, rather than have this feeling that at my level, I have understood everything. I should be the source of light rather than learning things. So when we discuss about decolonization and so forth, I allow myself to hear from different perspectives how people discuss about decolonization, the type of struggle. What I was most impressed about is that what we saw was personalities who act out what they believe. This is something I find very impressive, because sometimes today we have people who say something, but in reality, what they act out is not in harmony with what they say. And that is something what I would call in the university an intellectual dishonesty. Meaning in that person, maybe the person doesn't realize, but there is already dissonance or a lack of harmony. So this is one of the things I was very impressed to see, people who really manifest what they believe. And I believe struggle is always painful, but it is how you take that pain and make it something, eventually you find peace and happiness. That's my sharing for a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Halim.
My heart is racing, but I don't know what I want to speak, actually. So whatever comes out, that's the purest thing I would say right now. So I didn't write any answer to the question, but I do reflect on it. I'm a type of person that really in the school is the history subject is one of my favorite subject. Until now, I love history. Even on Astro channel, I always watch History channel, Discovery channel, things like that, because I love to see history. But as the time pass, I noticed that what is on TV, on the book, it can be written in a way that the writers want, and it can be redirected in a way that the director want to show us what is history in their perspective, either it's to brainwash or it's for branding or anything. So I came across in disbelief in what we see nowadays, and even in Independence Day, we call today is 31st of August. As a kid, we tend to believe that this is our our Independence Day as a Sabahan. But we realized that I realized that the real history is when we got an independence on 16 September 1963. So, but I keep looking on my phone from last night and this today, all of my Sabahan friends, like, still, I don't blame them to celebrate and appreciate the Merdeka Day or everything, but I realized that a lot of our the young people still not really realize what is the real Independence Day for Sabah. It's actually the 31st of August is significant days for our country, of course, not denying that, but I think we value this day more than we value formula. I think for the past years I value 31st August more than 16 September 1963. But yeah, and talking about colonialism, I love history and I went to university and I study politics. I work in politics and make me realize that Sabah we are still weak in our political will. Sort of saying that the party, the candidates, the people who run the party, even for now in Malaysia, we don't know we have a government or not. I don't even care because it's the same people, the same person, the same objective. The person will can be different party, different people come in, come out, but the intention will be the same. Maybe it's about power and it's about money. So I think this system, where too much to be fixed is, if we want to fix the whole system, it will take our lifetime, I think. And many people believe in this system, even though nowadays we tend to see more people speak out about their voice throughout social media and everything. Still in the social media, you can speak too much because you will categorize as penghasut or anything like that. If you say something, you will be arrested by the police. So we don't really independence in a way that still controlled by the police, by the law. But I'm not saying that every people have a voice to voice out, but I'm not saying that everything that you say is true. So you don't always remind that even though each of us have the rights to say something that we want to say, but it doesn't make you always right, and your unfortunate situation doesn't always make you right also. So I think we must use the platform to speak in the right way, in a respectful way. And I don't know, still people tend to be rude, I guess. Doesn't matter, it's about protest, something, voicing out something, but I think it's not the way for us to change something. If you want people to respect you, you need to respect the people also. So I think we need to change how we move forward, how we progress about our ketidakpuashatian in a more respectful way, especially the younger generation. So yeah, I don't know if you guys can understand what I talk about. And I think manners is important, even though we don't believe in such system. But I think the younger generation nowadays tend to be rude in a way to say their voice. Then I don't agree with that. We need to more structuralize. We need to really think ahead. And yeah, we need to communicate in a respectful way, whatever it is. Thank you. Sekian.
Thank you, Rizlan.
When I look at my journal again, I feel okay. That's the chaos in my head. So I'm quite what we call. Yesterday when I left with all the speakers, there was a feeling of joy. So many feelings that I had yesterday. And when I went home, and then I tried to open the what we call that question again, because I got 2 questions, but I didn't really pay attention. So when I downloaded, oh, so difficult. I said so many words, and so I was about to give up, but I text Jenny how she was doing, and she told me, and then we chat a little bit, and then I had to sleep. I wanted to write, but I couldn't. So this morning, I danced. I danced a little bit because my room facing the sun, sunrise. So I said I have to use my head was damaged yesterday. My heart also a little bit stirred, but my hands is not moving. So I have to what my body lah, so that it can go to my fingertips. So after that, I try to write whatever words. When I look at it again, so many words, I can laugh. But anyway, when I opened my phone, and then I saw Jenny. Yesterday, she said, okay, this is a sharing, she said. So I said, oh, okay lah. I just share. I also reflected last night. I told Jenny, but my thoughts I just want to share to you. My reflection this morning for globalization and colonialism. It, it is a big term that unites people who are struggling. So that's my pala. So I say colonialism and globalization. I keep on thinking about it last night. I just took these 2 from the question and said, actually, this is a term that can unite people who are struggling, whether it's internal or external, because these are forces. And then maybe it's good or bad, but it's us individually to determine how we can take it, push it, or still thinking what are we going to do it in our daily struggle. But ultimately, I said my thought, it's my reflection, my belief, my understanding that will make me to take the action and then to build the relationship with the external or internal forces. So the internal forces, of course, for me is my upbringing. I grew up with this nature, culture, belief systems that now create the longing for going for this understanding of why we are subjected to this colonialism and globalization, because these are all not all good, not all bad. So I said, okay, it's every time I think it's in the stages of life. I think for now, almost and maybe ending. I don't know, still continuing. It's either simple or complex. So it's the most important thing is when we are hurt, make it simple as breathing, inhale and exhale. But if you are high, you can think like the sun and the moon kind of thoughts going forward, and then after that, like the wave going forward and backward. And then imagining the seen and unseen, known and unknown, and then challenging my own belief and faith. And then whether I will take the movement or non-movement within myself or outside. And then again, at the last point, my reflection is how what is important is the meaning of life, to create, to connect to my creator, God, maybe because of his love, because of my own love with my community. And yeah, so it's like this, going round and round and round. This is my apalah sharing today, this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Yogi. I think that is a nice way to wrap up the check-in. So it's 10:03. Let's shift to the next part of the day.